Hey Peyton, nice to see you again on this beautiful day. This time with a quote by some tennis player trainer. He's called Timothy Gallwey. And in his book, The Inner Game of Tennis, he wrote, "The player of the inner game comes to value the art of relaxed concentration above all other skills. He discovers the true basis for self-confidence, and he learns that the secret to winning any game lies in not trying too hard." So, what are your ideas on this quote? Maybe on this flow state, self-confidence, and not trying too hard? And please share them with us today.
Yes, great to be back. What a useful and widely applicable topic to trying to operate at a high level in the world, especially in doing challenging stuff. I think, for myself at least, if I could go back in time and teach something or some skill to my younger self, one of them would be this power of flow states and even a counterintuitive power. I think that the capacity to understand and tap into and leverage and trust flow states is one of the most useful meta skills that we can cultivate in our life. And it's something that for me was not at all natural. And I didn't even know about the power of flow states until, at least explicitly, until fairly recently in my life, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, 5 years ago probably. But yet they're actually the most powerful or high functioning way of being for us. It's this experience, I think many of us can relate to it in some form of sport or physical activity when the the thinker, planner, thought referencer, center, looking back at me, thinking about me, planning, anticipating, etc., drops away and relaxes, and we're able to enter into a more balanced state of mind, a more optimally functioning state of mind, where we are almost observing our body interact and interconnect with the field in front of us and act with instinct without needing to see a stimulus, enter it back into the mind, play telephone, digest it, think about it, understand what it's supposed to mean, and then communicate a message over to my hand to move over here to do something. I'm actually way better if I can just take everything in, not be centered in one tiny little point up here, but yet absorb, react, flow, interact. And this is, I think, quite vivid for many of us in sports in our lives. I think a lot of us have had the experience as kids or playing sports when we were too much in our head and really getting in our own way. It made us more rigid, it made us less adaptable, less responsive, and ultimately not up to our ability to interact and flow with the game or even with a certain motion in the game, like in golf. If I was thinking and explicitly thinking, oh, I gotta make sure I turn my wrists over, my club head needs to be like this or whatever, I made many more mistakes and I was much less able to be all in harmony, all in one motion and fluid that was good. And the same thing applies to all kinds of other dimensions of our lives, especially, at least in my experience, creative dimensions or interpersonal dimensions. There's these different forms of flow, but they share a few things in common, which is that we're not in the cockpit anymore. We are kind of everywhere all throughout and very much decentered and in the flow of the sphere, not just planning, anticipating, and rigid, but yet flexible, bendy, and flowy with what's going on. I watched when I was in high school, one of my best friends and I used to play music a lot, and he was way better than me, especially at improvising. And I didn't really understand why. Like he could freestyle rap better than me, even though I was capable of writing and reading better than him. And I would watch him play guitar, and he would just naturally come up with these really cool melodies and rhythms completely improvisationally. And I had no idea how the hell he did that. Like when I was trying to do this, I was just trying to think, and I couldn't put one note in front of another unless I had just meticulously figured it out in advance and then rehearsed it and memorized it. But yet he could just naturally flow up and down and come up with these wonderful melodies without ever having played them before or even having the capacity to remember them to play them again necessarily. And this applies just as well in our creative pursuits, in our business pursuits, in our conversations with others. There is this natural balanced whole brain and body system capacity that we can learn to access in all of these things, whether we're in motion, whether we're still, whether we're interpersonal or in a panoramic mode or in a totally absorbed mode, getting into our work, looking into it, getting so absorbed in it that we don't really know what we're doing and why. We're kind of observing the words or the image manifest before us from a source that's within, that's not necessarily us trying to clench and force and figure it out and make it happen and work really hard and try and struggle against it. When we can relax and allow these things to come out from within or to come from the source within, we can discover that, oh my goodness, this capacity is so far better at doing stuff, so wiser, so much more capable, so much more creative, more energized, and more renewable than when we try to struggle against the problems of life or the situations of life or the competitions of life or the conversations in life. And so that is a meta skill that I have a long way to go on, but I do believe that it is deeply intertwined with the first person journey that we're all on of becoming more harmonious with our inner self, becoming less egoic and less rigid around certain identities and forms of thoughts and tendencies to cling or grasp or crave. It's deeply interconnected with this first person journey. Even meditation on a cushion is in some way training to drop into flow states out in the world in situations. What are your thoughts around flow and the powers that it brings, or how we can cultivate it and cultivate a capacity to drop into it in our lives?
Hey, beautiful idea and beautiful thoughts, man. And yeah, this kind of art of relaxed concentration, what Galloway talks about, is like the keystone thing that you're in flow. Like when you're in flow, challenge fits exactly upon the skill set you have. And there's a small band that combines challenge and skill set. And if you fit right in, then it's much more likely for you to come into flow. And if you are in flow, everything is like a river. Everything just interlocks and everything just moves the way it always should have moved. And you don't feel that something has friction. You don't feel that something is missing. It's just in the moment, and you lose all sense of time, and you lose all hurry, and it's just diving into the craft that you are in right now. And it connects just to the moment, and this also refers back to when we meditate. Okay, we can have this kind of self-confidence when we meditate as well. And being in nature also connects us back to our own selves. And I love how the framing goes, where he says, okay, and the secret in winning any game is not trying too hard. And yeah, if you ever have dealt with a creative challenge, which you for sure have, and you found yourself getting stuck, and then you tried it too hard, you bashed against the wall over and over and over again. And the secret is to not try too hard, is to step back, and to step back like a painter from your own image, like from your own picture, and try to see it from a different angle, from a different perspective, try to change the perspectives as well. And from there you have just a renewed sense of what is there to add value to the image or to the picture or to the challenge you are creatively facing. And you also can help people like that, taking in different perspectives so that the picture becomes more whole if you really think from a different angle about it. And when I remember one of my most favorite moments in my life has been in this kind of state. It was challenging, but I found a way to match the challenge with the skills that I had at that time. It was it was going up the mountain and starting with a paraglider and trying to catch thermals for the first time. And it was amazing when I did catch them, and it was scary because the mountain face was so close when I did these turns. But the moment when you are higher than the mountains around you and you find a way to stay afloat on these kind of thermal winds, it is just amazing being in this kind of flow. And then I played, and it was like really playful. I didn't try too hard, and it was like, okay, let's fly around. Okay, over 1.5 hours in the air, I'm going back to the valley again, and then I didn't try too hard, but I did eventually a point landing, and that was like the instance of flow, which is forever my reference experience to describe flow in itself, because everything just clicks. Everything just is perfectly aligned what you're capable of, and is perfectly aligned with the challenge you are facing, and is perfectly aligned to bring this kind of space, this kind of room where you can play. It is like this playful attitude of a child you also can bring into this game. And if you find yourself in challenging situations and find yourself being stuck, then maybe it is an idea to really step back and try to view it as a game. Okay, how fun could I make it if this was a challenge or a game to play? And how fun am I able to make it? Because obviously it's challenging, but if you tap into this resource of trying to combine different resources together and see what comes out, then you maybe generate another flow of resources which you haven't discovered yet. And from there, you have this kind of self-confidence where the challenge seems easier and your skill set also grows. But you have this focus as well. And if you have the focus and this playful attitude, I believe that you can free some trapped creative potential, which always has been there, but you haven't tapped into it yet. So my intention for this week is to be more playful, more creative in the way I approach things, but also tap into this self-confidence when I focus and really try to focus on a challenge, but not try too hard. What is your...
Agreed. Great intention, my man. May we learn to cultivate this greater capacity, this upgraded operating system within us, and may we also learn to trust it when it does arise, to get out of the way and allow it to move through us in a much greater way than our struggling self ever could. Appreciate you sharing your thoughts. I definitely have a long way to go in integrating this, but it is a wonderful field of exploration, potential, and enjoyment. I appreciate you, my man. I'll talk to you
Appreciate
next
you,
week.
man. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye bye.